Hello everyone and welcome to Don't Be Bored. Today I'm going to do a quick review for you of Moving Wild. Now this is a sort of reprint. The old one was a zoo with enclosures, now it's sort of still animals but you're putting them into areas, and there are some subtle differences between Zuuli, the original, and now Moving Wild. And just know this was provided to me by the distributor to take a look at. So let's jump into it, go through roughly how the game plays, and then I'll give you some pros and cons. So starting off, Moving Wild is a drafting game, and what that means is each turn you're going to have a hand of cards. You're going to choose one of those cards, which you will be revealing once everyone has selected a card, and then you pass that hand of cards on clockwise or counterclockwise round the table. You are then going to be getting a new hand of cards from one of those other players that you're playing with, picking one and passing the rest on, and you keep doing that until all of the cards have run out. At this stage you are then going to be utilising them, and you have animals that you're going to be hopefully scoring points for by putting them into areas. Now while doing this animal placement there are some restrictions. First of all, the most obvious one is the sort of area size. Let's take your base camp as an example. It's got 6 spaces in it, denoted by the little 6 dots and the number 6 on it. That means it has room for that much animal in it, and not necessarily 6 animals unless they're really small ones. For example, you could place this elephant that's going to score you 5 points into your base camp because it's size of 6. Now you could instead maybe play 2 manatees in there which are size 3. 3 plus 3 is 6, that enclosure is then full. The next thing you need to be careful is some of the later sort of areas that you can draft, they don't have all the terrain types, and certain animals need certain terrain types. A giraffe, for instance, is only going to be played into the yellow savanna-like area. If your area only has green, like grassland, and water, the blue one, you can't play your giraffe there. Maybe though you've also drafted an upgrade that lets you add that yellow terrain type to one of your areas. And that's an upgrade that you can add that then that giraffe, if it fits, could actually go there. Another thing that they can also do is some of the animals have hearts on them. They're happy. They're all good. Some of them, though, have these little animal symbols and they are hungry. A hungry animal can only be placed into an enclosure with the same type of animal. There are some caveats. Basically, it would try and eat the other animal, so you can't place them there. As an example, you could add 2 bears into an enclosure quite happily, but you couldn't put a bear and a penguin in the same place, unless you've also drafted the well-fed upgrade, which you can add to one of your areas. That means every animal in there that would be hungry actually is also happy. So are you doing all this drafting of animals, areas, upgrades? Well, you're doing it for points, of course. Now, firstly, once you've done your sort of placement of cards at the end of a round, you're locking in the upgrades to areas, but in following rounds, you can shuffle the animals round. But you will check, firstly, when you're about to score, every animal that you weren't able to put into an area, you'll lose 2 points for, and there's tokens included in the box. Now, you still hold on to that animal for future rounds, unlike in the original Zuuli game. You will keep hold of that animal. You don't discard it, you just score -2 for it. You'll also score -2 points for every area that isn't yet full. So let's say it's that base camp that's got 6 space in it, but you've only managed to fill 4 of those 6 spaces. It's not full, and therefore it also scores you -2 points. Note it's -2 because it's not full, not -2 per space that it's got left. Then it's time to actually score some points. You're going to score for every animal that you've successfully put in. Just note though, because there are some animals which will score bonus points, maybe if they're with the same type, or it will not score if it's on its own, and things like that. As well as some of the areas that have a ×2 on them. They often are quite small areas, but they will double the points of the animals included there. Once you've finished that round 1 scoring, hopefully you have some point tokens sat in front of you, and it's straight into round 2. Each round you have 1 less card at the start of the drafting phase, and you'll draft either clockwise or counterclockwise until all the cards are gone again, score again, go into round 3, draft, then sort of put everything in your zoo and score again, and then the game is over. It's very simple. Once you've done 1 round, you know exactly how the game is going for the other rounds, and again, remember, even unscored animals do stay from 1 round to the next. So if you've got some unscored animals, you probably want to start drafting in the next round some extra areas to actually add them into. And well, that is how you play. At the end of the game, you sum up all your point tokens and you see who has got the most points, and they win. Let's go through some of the positives about moving wild. First of all, we've got to talk about the box size. As with pretty much every Oink game, really tiny box doesn't quite sort of have that fit in your pocket smallness, but it's almost there. It's definitely fitting in a bag really nicely. Now, it does take up a little bit of table space with everyone building sort of their areas and their animals out, but super portable. I also like that the fact that it's a crammed full box. You have in there, you have your cards that are stacked up pretty much to the brim, but not quite, so they're not going to fall out. You've then got around that all of the point scoring tokens, and then the manual squeezed in above it. It's really crammed in terms of the content, but I like the fact that you have those point scoring chips. Means you don't need a pen or pencil or anything else like that included. You've got those and they fit in that box. The cards are slightly unusual size because they are fitting into that box. They are sort of long and thin. I don't actually have a problem with them. You can hold them quite nicely when drafting. You can fan them out, see what they all are, and quite easily choose them. Obviously, if you are going to prefer the original art style or this new one that is on Moving Wild Days, completely up to you. I certainly think this new one is very striking. It's quite a bold, unique look, and I think it suits the game quite nicely. I'm glad they didn't differ from the animal theme, but have sort of definitely made a visually pop, because it looks very different from other games. As with any drafting game, a good chunk of Moving Wild is done simultaneously, which means when you're doing that drafting phase, everyone is looking at their hand of cards, picking a card all at the same time, so that goes around the table really quickly and keeps everyone involved. Now, the other side of the game, where you've actually drafted all your cards and then you're working out, right, here are my areas, these are my upgrades, which area am I upgrading, which animals am I putting where can I fit this this hippo? Oh, I can't go there because it's a hungry one unless I upgrade that, and that can take a little bit of time. There can be a time where you are waiting a minute because the other player is really scratching their head going, oh, right, if I get 1 point, an extra point if I do that, but then I'll not be scoring this animal because I can't fit it in anywhere else, so I'll get -2 for that. So am I scoring 2 points there and losing 2 points? And they'll have to do some mental maths sort of thing to work out how to score best. But even that, you're still all doing that at the same time. I'm building my areas up, you're doing yours. Yes, it might take you a minute longer, but we're all still doing that at the same time, which I think that could have been quite a painful thing if everyone's doing that separately. But because everyone's doing it at the same time, everyone's thinking at the same time, and you can have thought during the round roughly where things might go. So yes, there is maybe a little bit of waiting that you wouldn't see in some drafting games where it's just drafting and then on to the next round. It's draft, then do some thinking. But it's still really quick around the table for that draft, and everyone is doing that thinking at the same time still. It might just take some players a minute or two longer. To quickly compare this game Moving Wild with the original Zuuli, there are some changes. Some of them are just like name changes. Instead of like enclosures, they are areas. I think maybe a couple of the upgrades have been slightly renamed. The observation tower wasn't that originally, but the ability was there. The big changes though is there was a holding pen box in the original, which was, it didn't cost you, it didn't basically score an animal that was in it, but you wouldn't lose points for it either. And that's gone. That doesn't really need to be there anymore though, because in part, you needed that because you'd lose your animals that weren't scored from one round to the next. In this, you'll lose points for them not being put into areas, but you still hold on to them. And I like this. I feel like before you could draft a load of cards and someone just took that last area from you. You can't put any animals in and you've lost a chunk of the cards that you drafted. Just gone. This, you'll lose points for that, but you have the option to maybe be able to score them in the next round, and then the areas that you're trying to get in the next round become more important. And I like that change. I think it's a better, smoother experience, that it's not just like, oh, not only am I losing points for these, they're gone. You're losing points for them, but they're still there for you next round. You still need to think about them next round. To me, I think that just works better. So overall, what do I think of Moving Wild? Well, I've really enjoyed it. It's definitely a drafting game that's quick with a bit of thinking sort of between the rounds. It's a very small box that is easy to sort of take with you somewhere. You need a little bit of table space, but I think you'll be able to get this played relatively easily. It's definitely staying in the collection as one of those games where it's on the shelf of, oh, we have that sort of 20 minutes, let's go for a game of that, or, well, we'll have 20 minutes when we're there. Let's grab that and take with us and we can play it there. That sort of experience. And I think a lot of the Oink games do that really well, of short play times, instant sort of good fun. In this, some good thinking. I like drafting. If you don't like drafting, maybe this one's not for you, but I really do like the sort of the way it builds up, the way your areas build up. You can swap the animals around. Oh, that's going to score me more points there, and sort of eke out every last point. So that is Moving Wild. Hopefully this review has helped you know if Moving Wild should be added to your collection or not. And, well, let us know in the comment section below. Do you have the original? Will you be getting this one? Let us know. And until next time, have a great animal-filled good day.